Hi, everybody. This is John Farian with Live Large Universe, and I've got two of the guys here, Brad and Luke from Outdoor Equipment Rentals. How's it going, guys?
Good, John.
Good.
So, Luke, where the heck are you today? You're in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin, just about 30 minutes south of Green Bay.
Very good, very good. And Brad, you're somewhere out a little bit further east to the, if I remember right, out in New York, isn't it?
Yep, New York. Yeah, about an hour and a half north of New York City, which
Very
is the
good.
country.
That's awesome. That's awesome, guys. Well, thanks for joining us tonight here, guys. I'm going to let everybody, as they're coming in and watching, we're going to ask them to let us know in the comments where they're watching from, just like we asked Luke and Brad here where they're watching from or where they're tuning in from. So we'll do the same for all of you. So please go into the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. And then also, just so you guys know, is if you get in here and you share the show, so we're going to be talking about some important backcountry safety information tonight, along with outdoor equipment rentals. And we're going to be promoting the backcountry first aid kit from Mountain Lab. So Mountain Lab is one of our show sponsors, and they've been kind enough to let us have this so that we can give it away to all of you for helping get the information out to everybody. So take a look at that. And then the other thing I want to talk about quick while everybody is starting to tune in here is we want to talk about the Avalanche Alliance Sweepstakes. So this year we have Arctic Cat Snowmobile we're giving away. We've got a Marlon Sled Deck we're giving away. We have a Klim total package we're giving away, including like an avalanche airbag, beacon shovel probe, full outfit head to toe gear from Klim. I think it's around a $3,500 value. And then we also, coincidentally, guys, have a BCA kit that we're giving away this year as beacon shovel probe combo with an airbag kit, and a great program this year. So right in the show notes, you guys will see a link from one of our show sponsors, which I'm wearing the hat and the shirt tonight, is from Marlon. So Marlon Recreational Products is giving away our first place prize, which is the Snowmobile Sled Deck, and that's going to be a promo code that you can use if you see this show before the end of the sweepstakes. The promo code is Marlon, and so if you type in Marlon, or if you just click the link in the show here, you're going to get a bonus 30% extra sweepstakes tickets for your entries. And so get in there and enjoy that as well. So one more time, if you guys are watching the show, please go in the comments, let us know where you're watching from, and please share it out, and let's get the word out tonight about tonight's awesome show. So guys, we have outdoor equipment rentals. So just a little bit. I know we've had you guys on before, I think a year or so ago, so hopefully people know you a little bit, but there's going to be some new guests that we haven't heard. So Brad, why don't you start? Tell us a bit about yourself, your company, and then your relationship with Luke here.
Sure. Yeah. So, like as John said, my name is Brad. I'm the owner of Outdoor Equipment Rentals. So, what most people are going to be listening to this that know about us is we run avalanche safety gear, airbags, beacon shovel probes, radios. We also do a bunch of other things: Garmin InReaches, satellite phones, personal locator beacons, Starlink, which we might talk about a little bit in the future. But from an avalanche safety perspective, so Luke initially was a customer of mine probably about 10 years ago now, believe it or not. And then over the years, we became friends, started hanging out at heydays together. And then Luke started his own powder coating business out there in Wisconsin, and then had the time, the warehouse space. So after years of talking about how I would love to have a Midwest distribution, especially for avalanche gear, with Luke's help, we've made it happen. And for the last few years now, a lot of our avalanche gear is shipped out of Wisconsin, which is prime location for Avi gear. So, and then, so Luke and I have been working together now for a few years, been friends and heydays and everything else.
Luke, is
Oh,
that
yeah.
is that true? Do you actually consider Brad a friend?
It's a strong word.
I mean, come on, really? I mean, he's paying you. Does that make him a friend? Is he paying you to be his friend? He's
Some days.
Yeah, I've met both of you in person.
How much I pay.
You're both good dudes. You're both my friends now too, by the way. So,
Yeah.
but Luke, let's hear your side of the story a little bit about kind of your perspective on, it was something you were already, participating in as far as some of the equipment rental. You believed in it. You knew there was a network that was available to do it. But tell us about your facility in Wisconsin and kind of how you fell into this personally on your side.
Yeah, so I started off as a customer, like Brad said. We had run for a couple of years from him, and it just kind of worked out that when I decided to open my own business here, that we talked a little bit and started off incrementally doing distribution out of Wisconsin, allowed us to service our customers a lot better. And then over the last couple of years, it went from doing part of the winter service to almost all of the winter service. So most of the distribution that comes out of for OER is done out of Wisconsin. So We get to see all the different things. We get to see how people are handling the bags, how they, learning opportunities to share
Yeah.
from that kind of stuff.
So here's my smart aleck in me and thinking about like, well, which mountains are people riding in Wisconsin, Luke? So tell me a little bit about your customers, and maybe Brad, one of you guys can go into this, but why Wisconsin? Why the Midwest? Like help us understand that. I know the answer to this, but for those who are watching that may be confused on why you're renting Avalanche equipment in Wisconsin, give us some more detail of why and how it works and who you're really targeting.
Yeah, absolutely. So really what it is, the people that live in the mountains probably own the gear, so they're not looking to rent it. The people that are renting the gear are guys that maybe trail ride, maybe ride off trail, but in the UP or something like that. And then they want to take their once a year trip out to the mountains. They load up their trailers, they drive, their 10 to 30 hours, depending on what it is, for one trip, out to Idaho or Utah or Colorado or something like that. So they're a prime candidate for renting the gear versus spending thousands of dollars. And the vast majority of those guys live in the Midwest. We've got some in the Northeast, believe it or not, as well. Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, even upstate New York make the drive out. But a lot of it's Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, the Dakotas, Nebraska, Iowa. So having a distribution center that's right in the heart of all that saves our customers money on shipping. And it just plain allows us to rent more because we don't have as much turnaround time. So instead of everybody shipping back and forth to New York, which is what it used to be, now, shipping from Minnesota back to Wisconsin, one day. So we can turn that gear right around and we can service more people with the same amount of gear. So it's worked out perfect.
Yeah, so a lot of customers, if they're going on their trip, how, again, you don't have to give exact numbers, but just estimates of,
Sure.
What percentage of those customers are having you ship products to their home before the trip so that they have it as they leave and it's in their vehicle with them as they're traveling, versus how many of them are you shipping to a mountain destination, say Montana, Wyoming, or somewhere where they're going on a trip?
Yep. Probably about 60 to 70% of the people, we ship it to their home.
Got it.
And then they take it with them, especially if they're driving out and loading up a trailer or something like that. And then there are a bunch that we're shipping to wherever they're staying, a lodge, a UPS store, a rental house, or a friend's house or something like that. Some of those guys are driving also, and they just don't want to deal with the gear. They save a few dollars on a few less rental days. And then the East Coast guys, a lot of them literally will load up their sleds onto trailers, have it trucked out there while they fly and meet the gear or something like that. So we often will ship out west directly for them as well.
That's cool. That's cool. So
We do get some who actually come in and pick them up here.
okay.
Now that it's
Some of the
Wisconsin,
guys, typically within an hour to 2 hours, we'll get a lot of guys that will come up, pick up the gear. And the good part with that is if they're unfamiliar, I can actually go over the gear with them so they're familiar before they leave.
That's cool. Something that you just described that it gave me a thought. I'm going to put you guys on the spot. You may already be doing this or you may not be, and maybe it's an idea you can run with, but have you set up any kind of like a pre-recorded videos like that you have on YouTube or anything like that of demonstrating the gear? If you're already doing that, that's awesome. Tell me about it. So, because what you just said, being able to demo it is awesome, but couldn't you do that for everybody if we had a YouTube video or something? So.
Yes, we should.
We've talked about it.
I think Luke and I have talked about this. We just haven't done it yet. So yeah, it absolutely is something that we need to do, and it's on my radar to get done.
Yeah, no, that'd be brilliant.
Something.
Actually, you could just link the YouTube videos right into your rental website and everything. And anybody who rents the equipment, you shoot them an email and say, "Hey, here's the equipment you're renting, and here's the how-to video of how to make sure it's set up and all that stuff too." I think that'd be a good value add. So
totally agree. We just haven't done it
yet. I will only charge you $300,000 for that idea. No, just kidding.
Okay. And we're out of business.
Oh, John, you'll have to come out and make the video.
Oh, that sounds like fun. Pay for my trip.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll come out and make a video.
There we go.
Luke, we can sit down and have a beer together or something like that. That sounds like fun. So,
absolutely.
Awesome. So, customers from the Midwest traveling out west, and you guys have been doing this for how many years again now? It's been quite a few years you've been doing this, right?
So I've been doing this now. Yeah, fifth year together.
Okay.
Me, about 12 years.
Wow.
I've been running this business now, so it's been quite a while.
Yeah, and on our pre-show discussion earlier this week, Brad, you had told me a little bit about the idea that like things are shifting and changing right now due to some of the technology of some of the airbags and stuff that are going on. Do you want to tee that up, or you have Luke? I'll let you guys decide who wants to cover that, but go for it.
Yeah, I can start. So this is going to be our first year with all electric airbags.
Very
So I
nice.
think it was 2 years ago we introduced the first when BCA came out with their new e bags. We introduced the first one last year. We added the Mountain Pro, the electric Mountain Pro, but we still had some air cylinder bags. So this year, start no more air cylinders. It's all electric now, which is going to be great from a business perspective and from a customer perspective. Us not having to deal with air cylinders, shipping air cylinders, worrying about them is huge from our side of it, but even more so for the customer. They don't have to worry about trying to hook up an air cylinder correctly. They
Yeah.
get multiple deployments now. They're easier to travel with. I'll throw it over to Luke to talk about the multiple deployments and the advantages of that. I think he's going to talk to that well. But that's the big change for this year. I mean, other than that, we still have shovels, probes, radios, beacons, but all electric airbags from BCA now.
Luke, you want to add on?
Yeah, I think the thing that I found with the air cylinders from a rental perspective was we wound up with people not hooking them up more often, not hooking them up correctly more often than would make you comfortable. We had groups would come back and over half of them would be not hooked up properly. The advantage that we have now with the electric bags is you turn them on. You make sure the batteries are plugged in and charged, or the batteries are charged, and you turn it on. You're done. You don't have to worry about hooking up a cylinder and making sure the sleeve's on and everything is tight, like you should do pre-ride every time. But a lot of people weren't doing that or didn't pay attention to it. So I think from a safety perspective, ease of use for our end customers is the electric bags are going to be a jump.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of opens up an entire conversation around people being familiar with their gear, right? And so it's no different than the first time you jump in a rental car and you try to figure out which side the blinker's on, which side your window squirter's on. And it's like it takes you a few minutes to get in it and get familiar with what's going on. And I think when it comes to like avalanche safety equipment, I would imagine, fairly confident this is going to be true, is that people tend to buy the gear or rent the gear, have it, and then feel like, yes, I have the gear, I am safe. And in their head, they think they are. But the reality is unless they're taking the time to practice with it, and this goes for, it doesn't matter if it's your own rental gear or if it's your own personal gear, if you don't have a little bit of a familiarity with the gear, and if you don't practice with it a little bit, and so like even for those who own airbags with the air cylinders in them, right? Like every season we're supposed to connect them, hook them up, and pull them, and then refill them just to make sure that everything's working correctly, to confirm that we're smart enough to hook them up correctly. To your point, that a lot of people aren't doing that, unfortunately. And a lot of those airbag cylinders, they have two sets of screws on them, right? When you're screwing, you have like a trigger pin, and then you have just the overall holding pin that holds everything together. So it's like a double screw setup that some people don't quite grasp or understand. But then it's just something simple as like, where in my bag, if I had to in a split second, where's my shovel? Where is my probe? Like, do I know how to put together my probe and assemble it? And so, Luke, you had mentioned that you have some instruction cards that go with the equipment too. Do you want to comment on that for a minute?
Yeah, so each bag we send out comes with an instruction card, which is really a replication of the instructions that are in the bag.
Yeah.
So we have numerous ways for people to learn about how to actually operate the bag. And the one thing from a practice perspective, the electric bag allows you to do multiple deployments, whereas an air cylinder, you're one and done. And unless you have a backup, that's it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the e-bag, I think we're getting 3 deployments for sure out of it, out of a full capacitor and a pair of batteries.
Yeah.
With alkaline batteries in it. I think with lithium, you get another deployment or 2. So you can practice and practice and practice so that muscle memory develops. And hopefully you're never in the situation, but if you are, that is just a reach up and pull. You're not having to think about it.
Yeah, and especially with rental equipment, it's important to understand, like, where on the bag is the handle, because, like, again, if you're not used to equipment and you have it, in the immediate moment, you're going to be thinking, like, is it on my left shoulder? Is it on my right shoulder? Like, where is it? And do I know how high it is? Do I have to reach way up? Is it close down by my chest? Like, and again, just practicing with it and being familiar with it. But you guys would absolutely, I'm sure, recommend, especially these electric bags, deploy it before you even go out on your ride, right? Just to experience it, to know where it's like, where the handle is. Any comments you want to add to that, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think like what you said is, I think people do get complacent. Like they rent the gear, they say they have the gear. I've got it all with me when I ride, but if you've never actually tried using it, I mean, there's the complications of, like you said, turning on the airbag or maybe hooking up an air cylinder. Where's the trigger? But it's also something as simple as, I rented a shovel. How does a shovel go together?
Yeah.
You don't want to be figuring that out while you're trying to find your friend who's buried. You want to
Yeah.
know how the shovel goes together. How does the probe work?
Yeah.
Where is it on your pack? So I think it is really important to, we try to encourage our customers to do this, but I hope they listen. Is you get the gear. We charge a couple dollars per day, so get it early. Play with the bag, deploy the bag, get used to it. Play with the shovel, take it apart, put it together. Same with the probe, same with the beacon. Go hide it in your house and go find a beacon.
Yeah.
So it is really important. This isn't just foolproof, easy to use gear, especially in a stressful situation like an actual avalanche or a rescue. So it's important to know it.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. What else do we need to talk about tonight? Is there some topics that we haven't touched on yet that you guys want to touch on here? Otherwise, I can go down a little bit of a different road here yet, but go ahead.
I mean, I think so. One thing we kind of touched on it on the pre-show the other night, and it's something I want to put together. I got to talk to Luke about it. Is maybe do some laminated checklist cards to send out to people, and it's things like, when you start in the morning to go riding or something, is your shovel and your probe in your pack?
Yep.
Check. Do you have your beacon with you? Is it charged? Is it turned on? Check.
Yeah.
Is it clipped to the harness or clipped to the clip inside the Mountain Pro pocket, or is it just going to fall out of your hands and into the snow? Did you test your beacon? Did you test your radio? Is it charged? And then did you turn your airbag on and have your buddies all check? There's a light that you can see from the outside, so everybody can look at each other's airbag. So I think it's a good thing. Maybe we'll put together a checklist, send it out in every rental, so you can sit there on your sled and go check, 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 and at least
Yeah.
you now covered the basics. It's not the same as practicing, but at least it means you're not riding all day and then you get back and go, oh my god, I never turned my beacon on.
Yeah.
Because that happens.
Yep. Absolutely. Luke, anything you want to add? Otherwise, like I said, I've got a few things I'm going to go into here, but I want to make sure we cover everything you guys had first. So.
No, I think I'm good. Brad's
Yeah.
covered it.
Yeah, no, there's a couple of things that I want to, I guess, share just from a personal experience goes when it comes to this overall topic of avalanches, avalanche safety gear, and everything too. And it's, those who watch my show regularly, this is going to be a little bit of a rerun, if you will. But for anybody who's tuning in for the first time, there's some things that I like to share with people around avalanche education and safety. And, there's things that, people go to are like avalanche awareness classes. And especially if you're from the Midwest, most likely, if you've gone to any avalanche training, you've likely gone to what we call a avalanche awareness class. And what that is that's basically a classroom type session, meaning you're out in a building somewhere. Usually it's at a snowmobile dealership. Skidoo puts them on with Mike Duffy. There's other places around the country that have them too. Most of them would probably be the Skidoo dealer ones too. And so people should just be aware that those training classes are not even really a training. It's just it's an awareness class, and it's there to just make you aware of the possibility of what's going on. And I have a feeling that people who've been through those are likely going to be the people who are renting equipment from you, because there's this whole phase that I like to describe to people when it comes to avalanche safety, and it comes from, there's three phases. The first one I like to call ignorance is bliss. We've all been there, right? Like before we even knew anything about anything, we were just out riding, having a good time, looking at the birds in the sunshine, and feeling like we were just we were on top of the world, living our best life, right? We went to our first awareness class and realized really quickly, oh crap, like I can't believe I'm still alive. I think that's mine and most people's reactions once they've really understood and learned some very basic things around avalanche safety and education. And that's what goes into what I call then the second phase, which is the paranoia phase. And that's the one where I think you're probably getting into some of your customers who are renting from you, and you're laughing because it's true, right, Luke?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've told this story. And this is my personal experience. I can go back and give you the exact dates of when I was and how I was. I'll tell you, it's from 2007 was my first ride. 2009 was my first avalanche awareness class. Those 2 to 3 seasons right there, those were my ignorance is bliss phase, right? That's what I had. I went to my first avalanche awareness class in Brainerd, Minnesota with Mike Duffy, at the dealership. They were through Avalanche One, and was really opening my eyes and my riding group's eyes to like, oh man, like this is something we need to take more seriously. And we were doing it wrong. Like we had too many people on the hill at one time. We were not like looking at slopes and assessing them. We had no idea that a cornice at the top of the hill meant that it was loaded and ready to trigger. Like all these things that we didn't know because we were living in the ignorance is bliss phase, which it's a great phase to be in as long as you survive it, right? Because you're not afraid of anything yet, right? And then you go into the paranoia phase, which you start to get educated, but you don't yet know enough how to feel comfortable managing it and mitigating it and understanding it thoroughly. But you know just enough now to be afraid of it and to respect it is probably another way to think about it, right? And when you do that, that's when you start buying all the gear and the equipment. And for others, they might rent the equipment like you guys are talking about. And they're going to go through this and they're going to get some experience under their belts. And at some point in there, they're probably going to take maybe a second class. They might even take a level 1 class. They probably are going to be out and getting enough experience in the backcountry where they might start witnessing avalanches. You know, maybe not any that are triggering with people on them. Maybe they're natural avalanches, but it becomes a little more real to them and they're in this paranoia phase. And I would tell you that paranoia phase, it's a good, healthy time to be in and embrace it for what it is. But the only way to get past it is to continue on your avalanche education journey. And what that means is you go maybe to your first or second, maybe third level 1 training, right? So your level 1, it's not just one and done. You take it, you go out and get some practice. You maybe take it a couple years later again. Maybe you go to a level 2 if you choose to take a level 2, recreational class. But there's a point where you get comfortable enough, it's repetitive enough, and you start putting it into practice, and you start seeing good decisions paying off. And I've been in that position too, where I've sat and watched friends make decisions that have saved their lives because either other groups have triggered it or they did a decision that triggered a slide, but they didn't put themselves in an exposure position, right? There's different things you can do to kind of just, get that experience in the thing too. And then you get into that final phase that I like to call it's fun again, right? So you go from ignorance is bliss to paranoia to it's fun again. And it's fun again means that you can go out and ride snowmobile in almost, not every, but almost every avalanche condition out there because I know with the level of education that I have that I know how to manage the terrain and manage the, the avalanche, risk that's there by changing where I ride and when I ride, right? And, where I live, if it's extreme or like bright red or black on the mountain up there, there's a good chance I can't even get to the snow because the interstate highway is probably closed because the avalanche danger is so high and they've got it shut down for avalanches, right? But on a high avalanche danger day or a considerable avalanche danger day or a moderate avalanche danger day or a green, with the low risk day, I can go up and ride and I can change and do, go the different routes and different places that I'm going to go based on the level of risk that I have. And I also make those decisions based on the group that I'm with and how experienced they are, right? It's like you can have a really good, solid group of riders that are all really educated and heavily trained, and you can go and you can manage some pretty gnarly terrain because you're doing it together. People are making decisions the right way, and you all know that, heaven forbid, if something did go wrong that you didn't plan for, that you're ready to rescue each other if something came up, right? Not that you're going to take more risk. It's just, you can never be 100%. So anyway, that's kind of my soapbox on the whole idea of avalanche education and saying, and again, going from that paranoia, ignorance is bliss to paranoia to, it's fun again. And all of that ties into your avalanche education journey. And so just know that if you're here renting equipment from these guys, you might still be in the ignorance is bliss phase, but by renting the equipment, it tells me you're probably getting closer to that paranoia phase of I need the right gear, I need the right training. And so just follow those instincts and follow that path. So I just want to throw that out there in the universe and see if you guys have any comments on that before we move on.
Yeah, we did. We're doing about the same thing. We did the classes with Duffy and the parking lot. I could find a transceiver in a parking lot. Was really good at that. And then we took a course on the snow with him, and that was eye opening. Just how everything worked in the real world, not just at a dealership.
Yeah.
So that education is key to making all of this work, and training with your team, your group of riders.
Yeah.
Random guys are in there. Hopefully they know what's going on, but the guys you're riding with day in and day out, those are the guys that everybody needs to know what's going on and have that same, if not similar level of awareness.
Yeah, very good. Brad, keep going if you got something else to add.
Yeah, just kind of related to this, over the years, seeing people's attitudes change even toward the gear itself. When I first started doing this, people would call up and rent a beacon, and that would be it. They didn't even want a shovel or a probe. They just heard I'm supposed to have a beacon. And then over the years, that changed. Some of it was me telling them every time they called and said, I need to rent a beacon, I would say to them, that's because you already have a shovel and probe, right? Otherwise, you need to rent one. And then that changed, and they would rent all three or say, I already own this, I just need a beacon. And then it extended into wanting to rent an avalanche airbag. And now I've seen things have changed to people look at avalanche airbags as not being optional, as being required.
Yeah.
And amongst their group, 10 years ago, nobody was telling their friends, you can't come ride with us unless you have an avalanche airbag. They might have said if you don't have a beacon shovel pro, but even that, not always. And now I'm hearing from a lot of people that they're calling me up and saying, I need to rent a bag, beacon, shovel, probe, and radio because my friends won't let me go unless I have all of that.
Peer pressure
And
is the
that's
best way to
great
get
to
people
see.
involved.
Oh,
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it is. I have seen that change over the last 10 to 12 years, and it's a good thing.
Yep.
Well, and Brad does a good job of asking the questions because we get guys who call and go, hey, I just need a bag. Well, do you have the rest of the stuff? Because a bag does you no good if you don't have a transceiver and a probe and a shovel.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think people don't realize too is that the avalanche safety gear that you're renting or buying, and the education for that matter too, like let's say the three of us are best friends and we're going out riding together and I don't show up with any avalanche gear. Okay.
Sorry.
I'm counting on the two of you to know enough of how to rescue me if things go wrong. But apparently I don't like you guys enough or love you guys enough as good friends to care enough about whether or not I have an avalanche transceiver to find you. And I think that's the thing that people get misled on is this idea. And again, it's very ignorant people that think this way, but it happens. I've seen it over and over again where they're like, screw it. It's like, it's my life. I get to do whatever I want. It's like, well, that's not how this works, is because if now my buddy Luke or Brad here gets in an accident, they're counting on me to have an avalanche transceiver. And guess what? An avalanche transceiver does me no good if I don't have a probe to then pinpoint where my friend is at. And if I don't have a shovel to dig them up, that doesn't do me any good either. I would be the first one to tell anybody out loud that I would take a beacon, shovel, probe, and an education. Here's the thing. If you got beacon, shovel, probe, education, airbag pack, if you have those 5 things to choose from, the very first thing that I would tell you to do is go get the education. But again, all of these things, they don't work without the other. And so if you have an education, that's going to help you maybe make some good decisions on where to be or not to be. But again, it's never going to be 100% failure rate or a success rate, right? And so then you're going to get into like, well, what's the next most important thing? People are going to tell you a transceiver. Well, yeah, a transceiver will help you find the body if somebody doesn't have the shovel and the probe, because then search and rescue at least can find the body. But again, it's not going to save your life if all you have is a transceiver, right? So the transceiver, you have to have the probe. Why do you need the probe? It's to be able to pinpoint where you get the signal, you get it narrowed down within a little 1 or 2 foot square area. But guess what? If that person is 3, 4, maybe even worst case scenario, 5, 6 feet deep, guess what? You could dig a hole, and because the slope is on an angle, right? You might get a low signal right here and start digging and go straight down. Your buddy's like 4 feet in front of you because the signal picked it up because it's the shortest distance between, which is straight down at perpendicular angle to the hill. And so if you don't understand those things, and if you don't have the probe to pinpoint where your buddy is at, guess what? That avalanche transceiver and a shovel without a probe is going to cause you to dig somewhere that's not there, and you're running out of precious minutes that it takes for someone to survive, right? Yep. And then, of course, we talked about the shovel. If you don't have the shovel, again, none of the equipment matters because you can't dig fast enough with your hands to save somebody. And so I would argue the only thing that could even be considered optional is the airbag, but it's the thing that people seem to be the most comforted with. And the way I look at the airbags is that, okay, I'm driving a modern car with airbags in it. Would I intentionally choose a car that's available nowadays with no airbags in it? I wouldn't. By the way, they've made it a law now that you have to have airbags in your cars, right? But you think about it, it's like that's the decision you're making. Like, could I drive a car down the road safely and survive it if I have my seatbelt on, but I don't have an airbag? I probably could, but I got to be a good driver. I got to be a smart driver. I've not got to put myself into bad decisions. But those airbags are going to definitely help me if and when stuff goes wrong. And I want every chance I have to be able to survive whatever that situation is, right? And so, again, if you can have it all, have it all. But if not, you just heard the relationship that all those things have with each other, right? So,
yeah, I think
the way I see the bag. Sorry.
Airbags definitely used to be, and I think a lot of people would say, beacon shovel probe is for myself and for my friends. Airbag is just for me. That was the attitude, and I think that's changing a little bit too. Because what I always say is, you know, an airbag might save your life, but it also might save your life so that you can then get up and save somebody else's life.
100%
So
true.
you want your friend to survive that avalanche and be on
Yeah.
top of it so that he can come get you. If your friend is buried in an avalanche and you weren't even in it, at least you can then go help him with an airbag on in case there's a secondary avalanche or something else happens.
Yeah.
So it's not just for you. I guess it mostly is, but it really does provide the entire group with safety and your enhanced ability to rescue them. So it's all team gear.
Gotcha. Very good. Well, I think, guys, we've covered everything we wanted to cover tonight. Any last calls? Any last things you want to chat about before we wind this up?
I'll just give a shout out to a little rental plug is the newest product that we've been doing here for the last year is renting out Starlink terminals now as well. So, nothing you're going to be riding in the mountains on a snowmobile with, but you might want to take it with you. But, we're renting them out for people that are RVing, that are overlanding, that are tailgating at football games, that are doing weddings, events, all sorts of things. So check it out. It's good, inexpensive and simple way to get online.
Very good. And so is the pricing for all of your rentals pretty standard where you could quote a few of the prices, what people could expect if they were to reach out to you? And also then make sure verbally you share the website link too, which is in the show notes here.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's oerentals.com. Basically the way we do pricing is there's a base rate for usually 4 or 5 days and then a daily rate. Try to make it really easy for somebody to just, add on a couple extra days without having to pay for another week. So certain things might be, $80 for 4 days, but then each additional day is like $3. So adding a couple extra days is really inexpensive. It's a good way to make sure things get there on time, gives you time to practice with them and play around with them. All of our pricing structures are about that same way, and it's all on the website. Or if you call me up, I can certainly easily quote you. But
sounds good. All right, Luke, any final words from you?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Any thank you, shout outs you have? Anybody else on the team that you want to recognize quick?
I'll give a shout out to the guys that have supported me over the years and are my big helps at Heydays. In addition to Luke, his brother Jake, Adam and Sean. I saw Adam and Jake texted. I didn't read it because I don't really want to know what they're trying to tell me right now to distract me. Yeah. So we'll see what their judgment of this show is going to be. But big thanks to those guys for being so supportive and being my friends over the years and helping out. So.
All right, sounds good. Well, I always wrap up every show with a quick reminder of everybody. We call this show Live Large Universe. And why do we call it that? It's because we're asking everybody to get out there and live life to the fullest, make the most of every day, and make a difference to others. And I think, gentlemen, you guys are doing all of those things, especially making a difference to others out here. And so have a good night, everybody. God bless you. Have a great night. You guys can hang on. We'll talk to you in a second, and we'll wrap this up. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.